UFO conspiracy revelations of NASA astronaut Gordon Cooper. Several NASA astronauts have gone on record to state their beliefs in UFOs, their origin, and of extraterrestrial life. Perhaps none more passionately and consistently though than Gordon Cooper. Right up until his death in 2004, Cooper continued to speak out. He would speak about what he clearly came to see as a conspiracy of the withholding of evidence and information. The ever-growing disclosure projects around the world owe much to Cooper's involvement in their efforts. To say Cooper is a credible witness is a huge understatement. His service history as a test pilot and as a NASA astronaut speaks for itself. Perhaps then, his claims of the authenticity of alien life, as well as secret military projects beyond even the most imaginative sci-fi fanatic, should attract a little more seriousness of mind. After all, this is a man who has not only worked in the upper echelons of the military and NASA. He has also undertaken close work with intelligence agencies around the world, perhaps most notably, the CIA. Further to that, he has spent considerable time at Lockheed Skunk Works. This particular operation is hugely responsible for the hardware of the black budget programs. Unlike others who are possibly seeking attention and money from their statements, you have to ask, what would such an accomplished person, considered by most to be at the top of his profession, have to gain from inventing such outlandish incidents? His wealth of experience surely suggests a person such as Gordon Cooper would know more than most what really goes on behind some of the most secretive of closed doors. Top secret test flights and space missions. Gordon Cooper is one of the most decorated of all NASA's astronauts. He would spend a total of 222 hours outside of the planet in the vacuum of space. His accomplishments are as impressive as they are many. Among them is being the first American astronaut to sleep in space, flying the longest logged flight of the Mercury programs, and being the last American to fly solo for an entire orbital mission. Despite his wealth of experience with NASA, Cooper's UFO encounters all took place while he served as a test pilot. The first of these projects would see Cooper take up residence in Germany at a U.S. airbase in 1951. It was while stationed here, he would see strange crafts in the skies. The strange metallic, saucer-shaped vehicles would appear for several consecutive nights. To Cooper, there was no doubt whatsoever that these crafts were under the guidance of intelligent beings. He also severely doubted they were beings indigenous to Earth, citing his vast experience on such matters. Perhaps his most famous, and certainly most documented encounter, took place in 1957 in California. UFO lands at Edwards Air Force Base, 1957. During preparations for rocket launch tests on 3 May 1957, Cooper's team would see a UFO land at Edwards Air Force Base in California. A camera had been set up to record the launches. Approximately 50 yards away from Cooper's team, a saucer-shaped craft hovered in the air. It then began to descend to the ground. 3 legs outstretched from the underside of the craft as it used them to settle on the ground. After a short while, members of Cooper's team slowly made their way towards this strange object. As they did so, it rose into the air, ascending high above them and disappearing from sight. All the while not a sound came from the craft. Following official protocol for such sightings, Cooper packaged up the film and sent it to the Pentagon for analysis. Not only did he not receive the film back, he would never hear anything from Pentagon about the incident again. Date, 1957. Location, Edwards AFB, California, United States. I had a camera crew filming the installation when they spotted a saucer. They filmed it as it flew overhead, then hovered, extended 3 legs as landing gear, and slowly came down to land on a dry lake bed. It was a classic saucer, shiny silver and smooth, about 30 feet across. It was pretty clear it was an alien craft. In 1957, Cooper was one of an elite band of test pilots at Edwards Air Force Base in California, in charge of several advanced projects, including the installation of a precision landing system. I had a camera crew filming the installation when they spotted a saucer. They filmed it as it flew overhead, then hovered, extended 3 legs as landing gear, and slowly came down to land on a dry lake bed. These guys were all pro cameramen, so the picture quality was very good. The camera crew managed to get within 20 or 30 yards of it, filming all the time. It was a classic saucer, shiny silver and smooth, about 30 feet across. It was pretty clear it was an alien craft. As they approached closer, it took off. When his camera crew handed over the film, Cooper followed standard procedure and contacted Washington to report the UFO, and all heck broke loose, he said. After a while, a high-ranking officer said when the film was developed I was to put it in a pouch and send it to Washington. He didn't say anything about me not looking at the film. That's what I did when it came back from the lab, and it was all just like the camera crew reported. When the Air Force later started Operation Blue Book to collate UFO evidence and reports, Cooper says he mentioned the film evidence. But the film was never found supposedly. Blue Book was strictly a cover-up anyway. Cooper revealed he's convinced an alien craft crashed at Roswell, New Mexico, in 1947, and aliens were discovered in the wreckage. I had a good friend at Roswell, a fellow officer. He had to be careful about what he said. But it sure wasn't a weather balloon, like the Air Force cover story. He made it clear to me what crashed was a craft of alien origin, and members of the crew were recovered. Why has the government kept its UFO secrets for so many years? It started in World War II, when the government didn't want people to know about UFO reports in case they panicked, said Cooper. They would have been fearful it was superior enemy technology that we had no defense against. Then it got worse in the Cold War for the same reason. So they told one untruth, they had to tell another to cover that one, then another, then another. It just snowballed. And right now I'm convinced a lot of very embarrassed government officials are sitting there in Washington trying to figure a way to bring the truth out. They know it's got to come out one day. And I'm sure it will. America has a right to know. Gordon Cooper's letter to United Nations, 9th of November 1978. In 1978, Cooper would write an open letter to the United Nations, essentially pleading with them to release information to the public, and to pursue a project to make contact. Cooper stressed his belief that our extraterrestrial visitors were likely arriving here from other planets. This suggested that they were considerably more technically advanced than us. So much so a top-level, coordinated program should go into action. He went on to state that, through scientific analysis of UFO encounters from around the world, humans could decide how to interface with these visitors in a friendly fashion. He also clearly states that human beings need to demonstrate that we can resolve our problems by peaceful means, rather than warfare, before we are accepted as fully qualified universal team members. What is interesting here is that this sentiment is very similar to former Canadian Defence Minister, Paul Hellyer. Hellyer is arguably the highest-ranking official to go on record to attest that extraterrestrials are visiting Earth. He goes on to speak on his own UFO experiences, before he puts forward that most astronauts are very reluctant to even discuss UFOs. This is because of the threat of people using their names to sell fake UFO stories. Those that do speak out, Cooper claims, do so very cautiously. What Cooper is basically asking for from the UN, is that by lending their name to such a project, it would encourage some of the great minds needed to succeed, to come forward and work in an area they would otherwise stay away from for fear of mocking or cuts to their funding. The UFO cover-up is real. Gordon Cooper went on to reveal mountains of information following his request of the UN in 1978. He would speak of the covering up of information by NASA and other arms of government. He continually pressed for the release of this information, becoming heavily involved in UFO disclosure projects. He would also make claims of aliens being present on Earth. He made the statement that he had been present on a military base when they brought one in. Furthermore, he would always heavily hint that the back engineering of alien technology could very much be true. Many took his response to mean they should read between the lines, and many still do. The interview below sees Cooper speak at length on the conspiracy to withhold information from the wider public. It is from some time ago, and talks about a great many things. It is, however, very interesting viewing and thoughts, from a very interesting person.